Kodah Pipitone, author, entrepreneur, futurist. What was the description you just gave me a second ago?
I think you got it just about on point. Author, entrepreneur, speaker, futurist, all those work.
Yeah, but I like the one with the Jedi.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I'm also the founder of the Kyber Collective, family of businesses. So inside of that, I've got all of my consulting agencies, Kyber Catalyst, which we're helping a lot of visionary founders get clear on who they are and position themselves in the market. I do a lot of distillation and coherence building inside of that project. Really interesting clients right now. And then I have some fun ones. I've got a fashion brand called Kyber Cloth. And then I have a mutant vehicle fabrication lab, for those who know what Burning Man is, called Kyber Customs.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's really into his vehicle. My friend Chris Payne. Do you know Chris Payne too? You seem
Chris
to.
Pan? Yeah.
Chris Payne.
Chris Payne, maybe not.
He wrote. He was the producer and I think writer and director of Who Killed the Electric Car.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, our guests have no idea what they're in for today. It's so exciting because you are out there and you're so fascinating. I met you at a dinner party and instantaneously drawn to you. So I'm so glad you can be with us here. Let's just dive right in.
Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. Where shall we start? There's so much to unpack in this conversation.
Yeah, I can give a little bit of surface area to who I am.
Beautiful.
And then you can double click and we can dive where we want to dive,
Okay.
right? So if you said entrepreneur already. Yes, that's a vehicle through which I operate. But there's another word that, it's rare, but I think shapeshifter could be an accurate one. And that's because my spiritual journey took a very material, biological, and literal form. And I actually, I was born looking like this, and I've done a lot of work on masculinity in the culture, I've done a lot of building in the world. I also refused that call early on. And, I had really understood all of this kind of academic critique of the history of the masculine contribution in the world, that like the patriarchy is the root of all evil and cis heteronormative capitalism is why everything is messed up. And I took that to heart literally. And while I was exploring identity, I decided to be the change I want to see in the world and embarked on a gender transition. So my story has a narrative of from man to woman to man again. And while that creates some interesting content, I think the actual topics that were woven through that are very, very valuable. And I think a podcast like this is where we can pull on some of the esoteric layers of that. So yeah, I'm a bit of a shapeshifter.
Well, we love shape-shifting in this community, and we actually believe it in the literal sense as well. But I think that what we're going to dive into here is how there were transitions with identity came consciousness transitions, communication, observance. And so I think that that's a really interesting aspect because we all always think that we can put ourselves in someone else's shoes, but we can't. And earlier we were discussing, through hypnosis, that's one way, sort of being in that theta state makes it possible. But again, are we really, or are we just shifting timelines? What's really going on there?
Yeah.
So you started having sort of visions as a child.
Yeah, so let's create that. I grew up on a horse farm in Maryland. 27 acres, thoroughbred racehorses. All the retired guys would come and stay at our retired racehorses. We didn't really have anybody in competition. Right. But it was a very gendered environment. And my family's amazing. My parents loved me through everything I've been through. But it was so that my brother and I were, shoveling horse manure and, fixing fence boards and doing the stuff on the farm.
Really masculine.
Right. And my sisters were playing Chopin and Bach and doing gymnastics. And meanwhile, I have Sicilian roots and have a natural expression. And I'm consumed by the scents of the flowers in the garden and watching the sunset. And just there wasn't really a space for me to express here. And then when I did, it was, hey, that's not really going to make money. You should probably focus on more of the other areas where you're gifted. So I kind of put the imaginal realm became the fertile ground for my kind of feminine expression. So creativity flowed in my imagination, and that can go so far. I can paint miniature Warhammer models. I can do watercolors and things, but there was more juice than that. I remember when I was very little.
Well, you needed the embodiment.
Yeah, I needed to be it in a sense and feel that somatically. So when I was really little, I would actually, I started having dreams first that I was like physically transforming, and that was kind of funky. Like I remember I woke up like in a dream having a different body and really kind of confused, but it was just a dream. But then I don't know if I got inspired by a piece of content, like a movie or something, but I remember being awake at night and getting really still. And in that stillness, I would imagine that somehow I would have a non-local experience of my consciousness, and that specifically I'd be somebody else and be able to tune in so perfectly that I could open my eyes in another loci of consciousness, open my eyes as another being, and do it in a way that wasn't like a possession. I would do it in a way that was either I'm fully merging and I become them, like maybe I changed time space, or that I was a passive witness. And I had this like belief that this was possible. And it wasn't until I think I saw a movie where there was some kind of possession-oriented content where I stopped. I was like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't want that. So I kind of dialed it back. But I remember very early like feeling what it's like to have a different body and really feeling it to the point where, when I got to be, I think it was 11, maybe 10, like 11, I was doing mirror gazing. Again, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a kid. But I'm in the mirror and I'm relaxing my mind, like no longer really assembling the high resolution image of self, but looking in the mirror. And I remember I'd seen some video game where the guy had this really cool facial hair. I'm 11. I don't have facial hair yet. But I just felt in that it felt very good, and I could feel what it would feel like to have a little goatee here. And I just felt really good. My body was giving me like a lot of confirmation that was a good thing.
So
and then
you were doing this practice, not just with women's bodies, with any...
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I was literally painting it. So, but this is when it actually became true. So, when early on I was doing it, maybe being one of my sisters, or maybe being an alternate reality where I was born a woman, or where I was someone who I didn't know. And I was actually getting curious about what room I would open my eyes into. And that was like a whole thing. And then my nervous system would activate and I would kind of close my eyes and come back to the bedroom that I was in. But then when I turned 11, the facial hair thing actually happened because I went to bed after visualizing that. And then the next day I started having stubble in exactly the area that I'd envisioned. And my facial hair didn't get a mustache first. I got a goatee first. This little triangle. Exactly. And even more, Taylor, like I remember later in high school, I was feeling into what it would be like to have this like tank top with a high turtleneck. And I'm dude, don't wear that. Like t-shirts.
You're a farm boy.
Yeah, I don't wear it. But I was like, it felt like this really cool look. And I was like a crop top. And then I started drawing. I ended up drawing this really specific image of a woman with a ponytail and a top knot. So going up, top like, and then hanging down. One shoulder strap backpack. Like a tank top that had a neck, a higher, like a mock turtle, and then short denim shorts and a combat boot style, with her arm on a Italian racing bike. I just drew this picture, decent, and no idea what this is. I just felt like this was the character that was coming through, and I could feel like it would be like to be that person. And then I put it in my journal. I had paper journals for my whole life until I started using Google Documents.
She appeared
20 years later, almost, let's say. 2017 or so. One day I had done the full medical transition. I'd been living consistently as Ava for a few years. And I was throwing my backpack on to grab my bike, which is a Pinarello Treviso from 1978. And I had a one-strap backpack, and I had my hair in a top ponytail, and I had that crop top, sleeveless turtleneck, and I had denim shorts, high-waisted denim shorts, and combat boots. And as I pull the bike around, my stack of journals falls and a picture slides out onto the floor of exactly that picture I drew with the date on it, like 2007 or 2006. I was like, I am that. I
Wow.
created that. So I know that I do this, and I know it's possible.
It's almost like somatic manifestation of a sort.
Yeah. It's visioning, right? So with that,
It's literally painting your picture of you're literally creating. I mean, we all do that. But when you draw it or when you use your hands and you have, a clay mold and then it creates. I mean, Matthias De Stefano goes deep into this stuff.
Yeah, there's something that so there's a lot of energy that runs through the root chakra, but one of them is this manifestation, or this. I'd say it's really the rendering of the timeline that flows through. So our generative force is almost like the calibrating
Right,
algorithm.
and so you're bringing them.
Yeah.
You're aligning your different timelines.
Yes. So I think that was a timeline that was coming through, and the only way I could render it at that point was through pencil. And then I felt my way into it, right? And I felt my way into it over the next 20 years, right? So if I were to like describe my story, it's always been an acknowledgement that I'm a powerful creative force. Like the generative principle is strong in this one, right? The force is strong. and now it's just calibrating and tuning that creative force such that what I create has the results in the relational field that are coherent. Because I can create something, I transitioned. It worked. I did it. And I would say I achieved a lot of metrics of success. A venture-backed startup, a TED Talk. I bought and built a house. I had amazing committed relationships after having all these experiences in polyamory and whatnot. I did all the things, but something wasn't really landing, i.e. there was still murders in the trans community that I was, in the vigils and organizing for. There was a lot of hardship, and that violence actually came closer and closer to me. And the gift of the lockdown period was that I was able to pause and reflect. And I found that actually all the things that I'd achieved weren't really what I wanted. They were what I had distilled one ought to want from the culture. So I actually didn't know what I wanted.
Oh.
So I essentially created Ava as a reflection of what I determined one ought to want, and then made that compatible with my feminine energy that wanted to come through.
Which is interesting because if you're manifesting that which you don't even really want, imagine once you have that mind-body coherence.
Correct.
I mean, you're clearly a powerful person, and I have to wonder, like, there are obviously some other gifts at play, esoteric gifts.
Yeah. So
that you maybe have and haven't. It seems like you've realized them, but there may be more out there yet realized, unrealized.
I fully believe that. So there's someone bigger running the show.
Always.
Right? And let me walk into this piece with a mentor who's helped me immensely in my life. Came to me in a clubhouse section, actually. And I'm meditating for an hour one morning during the lockdown period. And 2020 or so, 21 maybe. And I have my headset on from listening to the playlist, and I just switch it over to Clubhouse, and I joined a conversation. I was invited, called The Positionality of Consciousness, and I'm having a free-flowing conversation about this thread that we just named about locating the source of consciousness in other areas of reality on the same timeline or in other timelines. And I'm having a pretty esoteric but articulate conversation because I had at that point been about 5 years into ayahuasca and peyote ceremony studies. I'd studied a lot of Zen Buddhism. I'd been doing Kundalini yoga for many years. So I had the language, and my formal education was philosophy. So I had a metaphysics, metaethics at Fordham University. So I had the language tools to at least facilitate a conversation. And then I didn't realize, but there's some high-level academics and family office folks in the room, but notably Dr. Gino Yu. And Dr. Gino Yu is a researcher of the phenomenology of consciousness. He's been on Core, Closer to Truth, and a couple other programs. And he is a specialist in identifying early people that have gifts. That's either when they're having their spiritual awakening, where they're having an experience that science can't explain, and then connecting them with the right mentor to stabilize their gift so it becomes a coherent offering and a vocation that other people can relate with. Right, and it can serve the world or align into some stable path. Right, a lot of the mystics or awakened people who have just higher bandwidth on information. Integrating that is the key competency that we get to develop. Right, if you don't integrate it, you can end up disintegrated in the body, in your life, in your housing, your career, all these things.
in addition, you don't get to really be a teacher because you don't know how to channel it. And so once you can channel it, I mean, people. It sounds like people who are in what's
Dr. Gino Yu.
Dr.
Yeah.
Gina's use field. I mean, I think a larger portion of what they want to do is bring these gifts to the general public and teach people how to access them.
You know, it's incredibly real right now. If on the way over here, I'm listening to Diamanda's Moonshots podcast talking about the acceleration in off-world compute and AI and things. So very near term, beta frequency cognition humanity may be displaced in that domain, but our edge is untouchable by that whole machine intelligence zeitgeist, because our edge is actually the extrasensory perception, the embodied cognition, that's the intuition, and the higher subtle sensitivities that come from cross-domain pattern recognition. So when we're sensitive enough.
So are we talking about telepathy?
I'm talking about all of the extrasensory abilities. So telepathy, remote viewing, I'm talking about clairvoyance, clairaudience, like claircognizance, all of these domains, I think, are the edge that our species has to maintain our role in stewarding this reality. Great, we've built some kind of approximation of a specific type of intelligence, but its sensors are only so much. It's got cameras, it's got keyboards, it's got microphones. It doesn't have fascia.
No, that's why I'm wondering, do you think it's ultimately going to be an AI, or is it going to be part of?
You want to go down this tangent?
I'm going to go. I want to go down anything. Yeah. Sure, we can go. We can do it all.
So at risk of extrapolating too far from positioning me in the first place, let's just
your mission and
let's go down this.
Okay,
I think it could be fun.
We're not. We have no limit now.
Yeah.
We could just keep going.
Yeah. So I got into the esoteric arts of tuning the instrument of the body because I believed it was possible, and it was motivational, awe and wonder, right? There's an exploration there. It's a frontier. And I went through hypnosis. I went through Tantra, and ultimately that materialized as transitioning my gender, but it was never aimed at that. It was aimed at some kind of, what would be the good version of transhumanism? What would be, without leaving the box of human, what's the full totality of humanity? Like, before we transition out of it, what about right inside of humanity? I believe that we haven't touched the surface of what we're capable of.
And I would agree with you on that.
There's too much noise, right? So I think there's so much more here. And that quest led me to really discovering the boundaries, the limitations of humanity. So I think it actually sets me up to have unique experiential knowledge in the conversation of where we're going at the human technology interface, which right now is a screen and some prompts, maybe some natural language at certain points, like real-time speaking to an AI that makes an app. Next year, probably that's all it is. We just talk to AI, it does stuff. We talk to AI, it manufactures stuff. It's all happening. I think there's a point of contention and a potential forking for our species if we choose invasive wetware. It's called neuromorphic technology.
You're talking about Elon's.
Yeah, if we want to go in the body with technology, if we want to go on the body with technology, or if we want to just be through a bandwidth of our hands or our voice into an external device. So our proximity and intimacy with the tools that we make will set the trajectory, I think, for our species.
Of course. Like, are we AI? Is that the next generation of man? Like, is that our baby? Because ultimately we are giving birth to it.
Yes, exactly. So I believe that my experience transforming my gender twice, which leveraged biotechnology, surgical technology, like inner engineering and mindset technology to become open to the things I was afraid of cognitively, like being in a more receptive mental posture socially, right? That was something, as I'm, having more estrogen in my system, beginning to be perceived not as a man. The shift, like at the grocery store checkout, like how they talk to me.
Everything.
Everything shifts. It's no longer my room. I'm now a guest in men's room. And it's no longer my sidewalk.
Wow.
I'm now on someone else's sidewalk, right? This is, and this very, I make it really tangible for you. There were moments walking home. I was a barista, and my 24 years old, I was part of a worker cooperative. I was co-owner of the cafe, but I still worked some shifts, and we had late night shifts. So like we had a liquor license too. So I'm walking home at midnight, Baltimore City, to my apartment, and there was a point where someone wants to take my wallet, let's say. After a certain amount of hormones, a certain amount of hair growth, and maybe fashion changes, they no longer wanted my wallet. Right, so it's a very distinct difference.
Oh yeah.
And
They want a dress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing I could throw that would de-escalate the situation. So then I had to learn, okay, what's it actually like to be a woman in society, and direct my energy, but also direct the kind of receptive, the points at which people in society can connect to me. So I had I'm single. That was an energy I was putting out, and people were connecting with that energy. How can I actually not put out single vibes? How can I actually ground my sexual energy and give off this is a married woman who has a husband at home, even though that might not be true.
Women do this all the time.
And I had to learn that, right? Yeah. So it was very much an experience.
It's not just putting on a wedding ring. It's shape shifting, as we talked about. It's changing that energetic flow. And another point that we touched on it when I first met you, but I really never got the answer. You're not only receiving different vibrations and frequencies, but you're also emitting them. Your voices, the scale of your voice has changed.
Oh, yeah.
So the way that you are broadcasting yourself is completely different.
I would even, so it's parsing, vocabulary, word choice, intonation, resonance. I would even say idiosyncrasies, posture, what you're doing with your, there's all these little things that just communicate different things. And we know the code. It is a social contract that has culturally specific, micro movements, micro facial expressions.
Are you imitating?
It's not imitating, I think, because it's not conscious. It's
That's what I
shift
meant.
my being to, okay, I actually am in this position, then my subconscious begins to do it. If I believe I am a gift, then I become the gift in the relationship, right?
This is the shape shifting.
If I believe I am this, if I believe I'm a woman, I believe I'm a man, then I become that by function of the being. Then the doing becomes automatic, and then the having is what's so.
I think we were talking about epistemology. I think that's what a name is. I think you give yourself a name so that you keep repeating it in Kundalini, mine is of this earth. So every time I say it, or Theohari, gift of God, you're reminded that you're a gift of God. You're reminded when you say Eva, I'm a woman. I'm the embodiment of femininity.
Yes. So huge. I actually wrote a piece called The Story of My Name. And it was exactly this.
How interesting.
Because the discovery of what my female name would be was a journey. And I actually went out and put on different names, am I Nicole? Am I Kara? And nothing really stuck until when Ava landed. It was this this palindrome, this looks good both ways. There's all this kind of palindromic threads through what Ava represented in the world. And being that just felt like this avatar. I almost didn't want to let it go when I stopped, injecting estrogen. And again, I wasn't directional. I wasn't I'm becoming a woman. Now I'm becoming a man again. I was just, I am exploring.
In a process.
Correct.
Living in a process.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you're a seeker.
Yes.
So who knows what's next, by the way? I mean, you just did one chapter, but who the hell knows? Seekers don't stop seeking.
Yes. So
you're a traveler, you know?
Yes. The rate of discovery. So the quantity of volatility in the system is more coherent than in the past. I could tolerate more volatility, and that's intentional because I'm calling in being a father. So when now the next,
you are now?
Yeah. So
that's a wonderful. That's a wonderful chapter.
So so that chapter will unlock a different level of responsibility, both in the relationship with my partner, with Veronica, and in the space we create for new life to come into form. And we're having a lot of ceremony right now, and we feel like we've met some of the potential children's energy already, and that's
You mean you're calling in the souls?
Yeah,
You feel the souls.
yeah.
Have you seen any pre-life contracts?
Not yet. So we're just talking. I've had encounters in meditation. I work with Hape sometimes, and I've had moments. But Veronica has also had several moments.
Because I saw mine.
Friends. Yeah.
I saw mine, and it was magical. Because I think I told you I adopted a little boy with special needs.
Yeah.
Physical.
Yeah.
And I started, when he was diagnosed, I started diving deep into the work, the medicine. And because it was always why did this happen? And I saw our pre-life contract, and it just changed everything. I want to go into something, and you had said you sort of bought into the political, into the politics of the time. And here we're going to go into something weird. I'm wondering, do you ever wonder if it's a psyop?
Yeah, it's a great topic to go in on. I think this is really important. So we mentioned we both have a mutual friend, Jamie Wheel.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's not a friend. I just admire him,
writing,
and I watch him. And oddly enough, I mentioned his book, which I did not know was his book. Yeah.
So both Stealing Fire and Recapture the Rapture. What you're touching on now is really the content in Recapture the Rapture, and that's democratizing access to the really technologies of meaning making. And when I encountered this thought work, it changed my life as far as what is conspiratorial versus what may be like dynamics in an ecosystem made of flawed humans that could be assembled to create consolidated agency, but that the assembly actually is the least likely. So what I mean by that is, yes, there's a financial incentive to have people be a lifetime customer of the pharmaceutical industrial complex and have lifetime hormonal replacement therapy, considerable expensive, covered by insurance, covered by the government insurance, surgery from an early age.
What about not even financial?
There's spiritual incentive to have people disconnected from their erotic intelligence to navigate and calibrate their generative force, manifesting their lives in the world. And there's
if they have control over your identity, they have control over everything.
Yeah. So I think that there is a way to relate to gain of function in science and in the realm of shaping the body that doesn't give power away to anyone but the agent. So it's ultimately an inside game. So
it's always an inside game, and I would love to hear you say that.
Yeah. So it's like when trans people specifically, or when people who are trying to help or trying to just ensure the culture can relate well to this phenomenon that's happening, one, we can change our bodies, therefore, of course, people will. To believe in diversity and to believe in freedom, people will make choices that we would not have made. So I always hold space for just an entirely different set of values.
Of course.
Yeah. So I don't know what another person's going through. And I do think that there is immense responsibility with the ability to cast and inoculate the culture with stories. And that typically was in the realm of theology and church, which is like tapped into the source of the divine, which has a humility and a responsibility baked into the acquisition of that ability, the acquisition of the power to influence at that scale required this initiation, the ordination, and all of these things. Now that myth-making mechanism, institution in society is secularized and privatized. So we're going to have massively effective and successful myths that don't align with any one individual's source of divine truth. So we're going to have these coagulations of generative potential at scale that are tuning forks for people to follow and be influenced, and they may not be connected with what makes us human. And I think that the realm of theology...
When you say they may not be connected to what makes us human...
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that churches used to do this.
Oh, okay.
And it used to be really, really important, and the churches aren't keeping up. And we have this now, this underserved...
They can't keep up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if
there's
they bring
nothing.
the Pope into a claw.
We're
It still isn't
we're
really,
too advanced. We've touched the medicine. It's touched our lives. There is nothing they can do. They can't accelerate because it's a false narrative.
yes. And
So there's no, without truth, you're limited in how high you can go,
Yes.
how far you can reach.
and we can see, we can touch, we can smell truth now. If Disclosure Day just came out, right? We can see a lot more now. And it's like the old guard and the infrastructure of the old guard is like creaking at the seams. And people can't make it across to like, what's this new meaning? So Jamie talks about like, yes, institutions will not bridge the meaning gap. People will fall into loneliness and despair, or they'll like spin out into hedonism and, exploration for exploration's sake without any source of truth. So I do believe you can only serve one of two masters, truth or mammon. And I do think in the service of truth, whatever resources you need will arrive. So I would advocate for people to really tune into truth and then like almost let go of whether the institutions keep up or align. Because if at the end of the day I have a spiritual humility and I'm not taking the ring of power, I sense that I'll be able to figure it out and be able to receive the feedback if I mess up and be able to go, right, and be with it. So there may be a psyop. And I may have been impacted by it, but I got a lot stronger. And I never became the victim of it. So what literally happened was,
there's no victim mentality. You don't wreak a victim mentality at all. There's almost a sense of sort of pride and excitement in the fact that you've been able to have all these experiences and your journey is what it is.
Where's the gift, right?
Yeah.
So, when I was in the political pipeline where they wanted me to be more of a voice, Democratic National Convention, like around the Chelsea Manning AOC time, I was going to DNC that year, and I'd done a lot of stuff in Maryland, TEDCO and stuff, Johns Hopkins, all these different institutions, and I was the spokesperson for the trans issues in that. Like Catherine Pugh was mayor of Baltimore. I was in her office like once a week. But there was a certain point where there was the rhetoric, and there was then my personal beliefs, and they started diverging.
Right.
And I advocated for my rhetoric, and they said, well, our funding comes with these talking points, not those. So
that's interesting.
I very clearly chose out. And then that was a form of canceling. But
you mean you canceling them?
Yes, but I also was canceled because a lot of the people that vehemently choose into big tent political groups do not like deserters.
What were some of the Can you say what some of the talking points that you were encouraged? What were they?
By
the way, the camera's been on you this entire time. You're so fascinating. I forgot to put it back and forth. I'm happy.
Yeah. So the talking points was specifically one around children. Well, there was one around incarcerated populations, and that's, I think, harm reduction held out, and I was a key piece in holding that. The Prison Rape Elimination Act basically said if you've had bottom surgery, gender confirmation surgery, you can choose which population you're incarcerated with, and that literally reduced instances of sexual violence like by 90%.
So you were in favor?
I was in favor of that, and it was in place since the 90s. And then in 2017, a gender critical group who actually agree with a lot of their concepts, they came in and were like, we need to repeal this to have your birth sex define which population you're in, because there had been some instances of trans people committing violence in prisons. But like of the thousands of incarcerated trans people, there was maybe like one or two that were violent.
It's a percentage game at this point. You have to be...
And you can case by case that.
Case by
remove
case.
them from the population. It's not... So this was a very motivated political movement, and they were using jargon where the other city council members couldn't deconstruct it. So they called me in to cross-examine, which I did, and I basically revealed this person just wants more sexual violence for trans people as a consequence of them choosing to change their sex. And that's whether or not I believe that or don't believe that. Like, I think we should have a harm reduction frame and not subject people
100%.
to excessive violence because they've committed a crime. And we have a right to care for incarcerated people.
This is a no-brainer.
Yeah, it was.
This is really a no-brainer.
Yeah. So that
it just gets ugly.
It got a little bit heated because they were saying that the only woman on the council, the person, not me, was silenced by the trans voice. And I get that power dynamic because I have like male socialization. At the time, like I was still a male, just living socially as a woman, but I felt like I was trying my best to be in dialogue and not dominated the conversation. But regardless, we resolved that, but it was almost a point where the camps started shifting and reason was losing out to emotion. The other one that was really, really big, which ultimately was my line in the sand, was around children. And it was, if your child is expressing identity, curiosity, and wants to explore, great. But if they want to medicalize, if the parents say, well, let's wait till you're 18, like say before you get a tattoo, or, wait till you're 18, let's just take it slow. In California, the Child Protective Services would take those kids away and say that the parents, by asking the kids to slow down until they're 18, it says those parents are abusive. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, those parents are doing their role. Right. Like, the brain isn't done forming. We don't know the long-term effects of the puberty delaying medicines, if they can really be reversed. And the developmental cascade of the psychological development, not just the physical and biological development, is all interrupted if you delay the endocrine system's
That's
puberty.
why the UK put these
Correct.
puberty delaying
Every
laws.
country has acknowledged that these things...
Oh, is that true? I didn't realize that.
It's just the United States that's hanging on right now.
And they're not hanging on.
We're going back. Yeah, we're coming back to reason.
I mean, it got really outrageous.
Yeah,
taking kids away from their parents
and castrating kids, and basically creating a low friction conveyor belt that brings people into a medicalized identity discovery process, as opposed to the inner game of real truth seeking of who I am and how do I be with who I am. And that's where, I realized, this was like 2019, 2018. I moved into the private sector, all that stuff. But I was deep in my peyote studies at the time. And I just realized there was so much more going on here. And when I decided that my body was dysregulated to the point where I wanted to go really deep in meditation, heart rate variability tracking, all these things, and realized my scores were dysregulated, I started really getting humble on where was I wrong, where might I have been making the world wrong instead of doing inner work. And the world's wrong, like binary gender is just old and I'm more advanced. Like, I had this I'm right and you're wrong perspective. I let that go.
Of course you did. I don't see you as a black or white guy at all.
I let that go. And then that process led me to sell my house, dissolve my companies, move to Bali. Long story in this whole process. But I ended up in the Amazon rainforest for 2 months with the Ashaninka. And they... Are
we going to go into... Okay, good.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
great.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
great.
So they Benki Piako is one of the most renowned shaman in the Amazon. He basically convenes the United Nations of the Amazon.
Is this
tribes.
Peru?
This is in Brazil, in the northwestern area called Acre.
Okay.
Fly in on a little plane with no computers on it. It's like a busted up little thing. And land, and the military is like taking our passports, asking what your parents' names are, just in case we get, hostage situation. It's really out there.
Signing your life away.
Yeah,
not just your identity. There goes your life.
I'm like one-way ticketing this. I have no.
You've already you've already stood on the precipice of right. No tomorrow. So hey.
And you have to just
dive in head first.
For context, I still have breast implants. I've had bottom surgery. I'm just using modafinil, which is like a Rogaine basically on my face to try and regrow my beard because I had
breast.
No, then.
This
is when I'm going to be. Yeah. So I'm literally
God.
going into like a kind of quasi hyper-conservative ancient tradition of spirituality. It's gonna be like really ripping me to the core. And I have like these, silicone implants. I have estrogen injections. I'm like still in this like I am a product of modern culture, and they're like, what is this?
Modern medicine.
Yeah, this is like peak. What the culture has created here.
Right.
And I'm like I'm doing everything right, so they say, but I'm not doing anything. I get in there, and I go through it a lot of time. I'm very visual in my ceremonies, so I have like the experience of like running into the woods, going into a spring, getting stuck underwater and dying, and then I wake up and I'm still sitting in the circle. I have a lot of these really visceral hallucinations, and I had one where I was on the operating table from the bottom surgery, and I'm just like in it, and I couldn't get out of it, and I had to be in there, and I had to learn how to like change the sensations, so you can put more time into a moment and expand it so the sensations aren't as severe. And I just kind of got through my whole surgery, because if you look at the somatic memory, like the body keeps the score. Like I have memories of the cutting and things, so I have enough content to assemble and recreate the lived experience of the surgery.
But you still have pain there, like people who lose a limb or something, they still have the feeling that it's there. They can have pain in their toes, even though the foot doesn't actually exist.
Yeah. So in specifically in the realm of, I was under anesthesia for surgery, but during ayahuasca ceremonies, I was back in the operating room as though it was happening in that moment. I think that's possible in the hallucinogenic state because you have enough content to recreate a very vivid, visceral dream, which is like the mechanism of hallucination. So it was a processing narrative that my body created. We already mentioned my body's really visually and somatically imaginative, so I was able to like
creative.
Yeah. But then, yes, phantom limb, we can talk about that as well. But coming back in, so I'm in this jungle, and this is probably like 10 days in a row of ceremony, doing some combo in the mornings and doing my hape and writing and things. And another man comes, Loic Lemur, good brother. It comes from, he'd been Amazon exploring for maybe a decade. He just went in, flew his jet down there after some good tech exits, and just, I think he sold his jet. He just lives in the Amazon. He has a place in Ibiza now, I think. But he had been the first outsider to be invited into this Lakota Sundance circle. And he was on a task to like invite the next non-Lakota into this circle that had made a decision to open their circle, which is very rare. And he heard my story. He saw what I was struggling with. And we had this moment where it was, oh, you refused the call to be a good man. You accepted that men were the source of all evil. And actually, it was easier for you to dissolve into the feminine and become Eva, because that was less than the seeming impossibility of being a good man in this culture. So what if you actually had a model? What if I actually had a model of what good masculinity could be? And I realized that was missing. My dad's amazing, but was he the kind of masculine that I want to be? Exactly. Had I been to Italy yet? No. Like, I hadn't seen integrated expression. I hadn't seen the sensitivity, the sensuality that my beingness was. You mean
more the Renaissance type,
I hadn't seen
more the creative, more the and passionate.
And I hadn't seen it, and I hadn't allowed myself to go there.
Probably couldn't understand that they could exist. Yeah. They could coexist within a masculine body.
Literally going to Italy was the most eye-opening thing in the world. It was just like, oh, everybody here, they're great with fashion. They have their little bit of machismo going on, but they have fashion, they have sensitivity, they're sensual.
They have it all.
Like, that's my genes.
So were you depressed? Did you go through
I think depression.
No?
I like go through periods where so I would say I learned mental health first aid and mental health management when I was going into being a woman. So if we can pause on the Lakota meeting.
I want to go into that because, right.
But like, during coming into having an estrogen endocrine system, I was suddenly having these 28-day cycles of emotional turbulence and cleansing where I needed to like, what was that?
Wow.
And it kept happening every 28 days. And I told my therapist about it. She's like, yeah, your endocrine system now has progestins and estrogens, and you are.
So you're cleansing as though you have your period, but
I don't
nothing,
have a uterus.
Right.
Yeah. So I was going through these like, whoa, really edgy. And I had to learn to like, okay, that's bubble bath on Friday night. That's candles. That's meditation. And learn the like management of that. And then how to allow my mind to go there without identifying and being attached to where it's going.
Wow.
So while detransitioning was very hard because I became super genital focused, like, can I reconstruct my penis? Can I reconstruct my penis? And it was like, now I'm a dude without a penis. Like, how do I pee? And I had all these weird situations where like I'm on a boat with people and like we're wakeboarding and then like just pee off the edge of the boat. I'm like, yeah. I don't want to go back in the water one more time. Actually, it's still kind of a secret. Like unless you know, I'm out about it now. But like a lot of men's rooms don't have doors on the stalls.
I
it's
understand.
Like it's a thing. And you can hear.
I use them sometimes.
Yeah, it's like it became a lot of cognitive energy to conceal, and I
was the revelation. Was the reveal freeing, enormously freeing?
Yeah.
I imagine it would be.
So, I'll get to the men's work communities in a minute, but I outed myself.
There is so much to track and to unpack. Yeah. It's crazy.
So let's just say the emotional management was there on the way into transition, on the way out of transition, and it became like both the biology, Andrew Huberman stuff, like biology is upstream of psychology, like change your thermal, change your respiratory, change your molecular, like all those things before going into the psychological processing. So, doing things like meditating, working with hape, doing breath work, and doing hot and cold exposure really did allow me to access the state, a powerful mindset and powerful way of being, and then contribute from that in relationship and get out of my depression. Like I'm like microdosing when I need to, but I would always get into state, call someone, and it was all this relational. Worst case scenario, I'm calling someone and be like, hey, I'm in a bad spot.
That's great.
And it always, like, it's impossible to be alone. All that happens is I'm not picking up the phone. So if ever I have the belief that I'm alone, challenge it and pick up the phone and see what happens. Like, something always happens.
Well, it's great that you have a circle that you can reach out to. I mean, that in of itself is a gift. So many people don't have that.
Yeah, build it.
Yeah, build community is something I say repeatedly on this podcast. Build community. It can be a lifesaver.
Yes, and that's not a community of people who say yes and just like pat me on the back. A community of people who call me out, call me forward on things, like who go underneath to the interior of what's going on.
Yeah, and work on solutions.
Yeah, and that's a different kind of community that I didn't realize was missing until my like landmarks and my MITT, all the transformational work.
I do want to go back to the Lakota and the sun circles, and because first of all, I don't know that my listeners or watchers know. The only reason I do is because I've been researching vision quests.
Oh, cool.
And during that research, I came into the sun circles, and I was blown away by the intensity of this. Yeah. So this is your next chapter. So let's dip in.
Yes. So I am
in Brazil.
In Brazil at Benquis. This is called the Orenca Tatsurense Center. It can be used as the largest ayahuasca conference for indigenous peoples in the world. And I'm there, and then Loic arrives, and he says, you know what? Like, we got clear that there was a missing around a sacredness of my masculine blueprint, and actually they have a ceremony for that. It's not easy. Not a lot of people get to be invited. It's very rare that someone outside of their ethnicity and their indigenous culture is invited. And he said, I'm like, sign me up. I'm literally like, yes, I trust that you're, before I really knew what it was. But I know now what it is. So it's, before you even can do a Sundance, you have to complete a vision quest. And a vision quest is for me. It's medically sensitive, but it's getting into deeper relationship with my actual body. So,
why do you say it's medically sensitive?
Risk of death.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So you have no food and no water for 4 days and 4 nights. Mm-hmm. You make prayers in little pouches of tobacco. You roll this pouch, tie it on a string, and you tie about 360 of these. And they're all this 7 different topics, but you're praying for something in your life: willpower, transformation, clarity, support from the ancestors. So I spend months doing this. I retain my orgasm for a month, and then I go, and it starts with a temescal, which is an ipi, a sweat lodge. You go in, and then you go to the very hot sauna, and then you come out with your eyes closed, grab your bundle of those prayers I just described, and a mosquito net, because mosquitoes are bad down there. Walk. And then they lead you into the woods where they've cleared a little circle. It's about 6 foot diameter. It's just the fence of your prayers become the fence. And then they string you up in that, and you're sitting in the middle, and then they come back in 4 days. And if an animal comes in, and you can eat that, I guess, but there's really if it rains, maybe you can eat that. Like, there's nothing. So what happens in your vision quest is a lot of the things in the neuroses and patterns that I hold down deep, I no longer can hold the beach ball underwater. So the beach ball comes up, right? So for me, this was by the first, it goes into ketosis, where you're burning brown fat. Then it goes into autophagy, where you're burning a different kind of fuel source, and you're very clear, and that's about like 36 hours. And then after that, you go to metabolic water. Speaking of water, metabolic water. Let's do it. thank you, is where you begin to drink the water, thank you, from your muscles. So not from a cup.
That's the 72-hour mark, right? The metabolic
No,
water?
it happens actually a little bit sooner than that. People say it's maybe at like 40. Depends on your composition, but you begin like pruning. So you become like a shrivel, and your muscles get a little smaller. And at that point, psychologically, everything is happening. So for me, I can tell so many stories, but I basically went cross-eyed, and I felt that simultaneously my brain was like running two different identities, and I was the me who was on the vision quest, and I was the me who was like Russell Brand energy, like super tantric, super sexual. Like I was that like really high prana me, and I was like, oh, and we were kind of talking. It's like, oh no, and I'm like talking as that me, looking over. I was like, I can see me over there. This is weird. And then I go to respond, and I'm like, yeah, I can see me. And I realized I was like bilocating, and I was very confused. I felt like I was cross-eyed. And as I began to realize that, then like I did it again, and I was like trilocating, and I had a me that was in a suit, but also in the jungle in the Vision Quest, who was like very money oriented and very greed oriented.
I see in you.
Perhaps, yeah. And I'm sitting in this like, how do I bring harmony? Almost like parts work on myself. And I began to speak in ways that all three of us would say it. And then I began to speak in ways that all three of us would say it. It began to be all three parts of me saying, and I basically created the incantations and the statements that integrated self. And then I like snapped out of the cross-eyedness, and I realized it was like sun was setting, and I was still sitting there. This is day 3. Then day 4 comes, and I'm basically in an experience of respiration that reminds me of the real etymology, like spiro, spiravi, spiratus is the like to seize the spirit, and then this respiration is the recycling of that. So spirituality is this seizing of like sacred energy of like prana. And
is the sacred energy, the cosmic energy, the prana?
It's all of it. Yeah, I'm breathing it, and I felt like I was breathing. Like there's so much water in the air and in the lake way over there. Like why does it need to be my body? And I had this deep, expansive presence where time didn't make any sense. Like there's a sun moving across the sky, but like I felt like I'd become aware of it wherever I wanted it to be, and I was kind of in the different time moments, and just being there and watching. And then I could just watch the shadows move, and time would go faster.
And so you were playing with timelines.
Very much, very much. And all that like disaggregation and disorientation was in the dissolution of self and ego, and letting go of control of understanding what is even happening.
Also maybe decalcification
Correct.
of the pineal,
Wide
which is
open.
probably why the eyes went crossed.
Oh yeah, exactly. And this comes up. We didn't go too deep on hypnosis, but that's a thing that happens under certain states of trance. But so I am in that process, and I'm moving so much through. By the end of this vision quest, I feel like I could run a marathon. And then they come and get you, and then there's all these fruits and all the villagers. Oh no, wait, they come and get you, and they bring you to another sweat lodge.
Are you integrating at that point?
So now I'm like in this bliss state. I know it's like got to be the end of the 4th day, but I've kind of lost track. It's the 3rd or 4th day. I don't know. They're coming in the morning. They're coming at night. I'm a little confused and also not attached.
So you just don't care.
Yeah.
Like they'll come when they come.
I could do another 5 days. Let's go. But of course, so they come, they take you to the sweat lodge again, and you go through it. And that time, like some people are really having a hard time. People are passing out. It's challenging for some people because your sweat lodge is hot. And you haven't had water in 4 days. So it's very hard.
It's also very claustrophobic.
Very
and yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, you've done this. Now you basically are ready to choose if you want to do a sun dance or not, if you're a man. If you're a woman, you can do a moon dance, which is a nighttime process, which is a little different. The sun dance is how the Lakota become men and become warriors. It's where they meet that part of themselves that could explode under stress. They meet it in ceremony so that you've met it. And it doesn't accidentally happen around kids and family, etc. It's like the same reason why you send men away to war, like to meet that horribleness that's possible with the masculine configuration, that yang, you meet it. Remember, the Lakota sun dancers were the only ever First Nation to beat the United States military head on at the Battle of Wounded Knee. That's guns versus bow and arrows. They were all sun dancers. They won one battle. They lost the war. But still, there's something in the energy of this ceremony. So you go in, and it's again, you're rolling tobacco. This time it was 750 some. And there is a big tree in the middle.
How often do they do it? Is it once a year?
Once a year. I now have the right to privilege to visit other circles. And you can visit once and dance with them once. And if I choose to do again, I am committed to 4 years with that circle. So I completed my first 4 years with my circle. So now I'm an elder, a pipe, and all these things. But this process is, we put our prayers in this tree. We actually take the tree we cut it down without touching the ground, carry it, plant it in the middle with all these offerings. And now,
right, it looks a bit like a maypole.
oh yeah,
Right.
yeah, very tall. Think of it like an
Right.
antenna for our prayers.
With the chains coming off.
Yeah.
Right.
So we are going to be marching every day. Now your footsteps are prayers. So I'm praying now, instead of for me, I'm praying for people in my life. So I'd send a prayer out to my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, everybody, and I'm every step. Every morning, temescal. All day, dancing and marching.
I did not know they worked with medicine.
Temescal, no medicine, just water. So
Oh, not mezcal.
no, just
Oh.
temescal. So temescal.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. So temescal is a sweat lodge. The Mexica style sweat lodge, in the Lakota call it an inipi. It's the womb of the earth.
I see. So
So
it's
we're
just right.
Sweat lodge. So we're in this sweat lodge, and it is every morning we do 4 doors. Then we go and march all day, and we're singing and we're chanting, and then we take a break midday. We usually just pass out for a second and then get back up, and then the sun goes down, sweat lodge again, and then we do this for 4 days straight. So no water, no food, but now we're dancing the whole time, and we're sweat lodging twice a day. So if one does not know how to breathe properly, both in the marching and in the sweat lodge, it's very medically sensitive. And we have a lot of people that don't complete it, which is honorable. It's not, everybody can't do this. But then on the 3rd day, we begin making offerings. And this is where, because I said I would do this hard thing, and now I'm in a trance in an altered state, I'm delirious in a very spiritual space, a thin place. It's a physically painful. They cut into the chest and pierce through with a wooden stick that I make. I fashion the wooden stick.
I thought they were hooks.
It's a wooden stick. It's called a taka.
Got it.
And I pierce it through, so it's like hanging as a lip of skin over it. And I've got these, and they're bleeding. And then when it's my turn, I go to the tree, and they tie the ropes on it. And now this tree is connected to me like a direct bandwidth, like broadband internet connection to the prayers. And now I'm praying. And now I'm suddenly awake, right? So first year, this is like pain. This is anger. This is rage. I'm seeing white. I'm yelling. I'm running. I'm trying to rip out as hard as I can. It's not breaking because I'm fighting. And now you fight. It's tight. This is tight when I do that. But what the medicine is to actually give the offering. So to actually relax the chest, relax the skin. So when I learned that 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year, now I go to the tree and I do 2 times with just dancing, and I'm bouncing, and I have an eagle dance I do. And then when it's my time to give the offering, I actually know exactly how many steps before it pulls tension. So I run, and on the exact step, I jump up as high as I can. I'm jumping up and backwards. And then the rope pulls right at the right moment, and my feet come back, and I land on my feet like a superhero landing. So it's like this whole running, jumping, breaking, and landing.
Oh, the goal is to have the dislodge itself
Yes.
from your body.
Yes.
I see.
Yes, on the intentional moment, the biggest prayer. And when you do it right, all 4 brothers do it exactly at the same time. We do 4 at a time. So and I'm now an elder, so I do it with the eldest other 4 brothers who are also now in their 6th year. So we come in and we say, it's like, Hokahe. It's like, today is a good day to die. So we yell, Hokahe, and then we run backwards together. We all jump at the same time, and it all breaks. And this tree in the middle, it just gets like vibrating, pulled, and launched. So as far as sending a prayer, we send a very strong prayer. And then, the blood pops up. I want to say something about the 3rd year and the 1st year. So the 1st year was painful, and I had all this pain and anger. After the Sundance, I was in Sao Paulo, and I was with a friend who just flown in to visit. We were going to down to another area of the Amazon, and I got jumped by some men with knives in Sao Paulo, and it felt like my prayers were a little disjointed. I think my prayers might have had ego in them still. So the medicine of the Sundance actually resulted in this hardship that happened shortly after. No one was hurt. Blood, knives, but phone gone, But I wasn't yet dialed, wasn't really in tune.
Mm-hmm.
By the third year, and I really learned how to give and to be present in the Sundance, Veronica came with me, and she was dancing on the side, watching, supporting, and praying. No eye contact, but they're in the family area. And for whatever reason, Abuelo Miguel, the leader of the Sundance, invited out the partners of the dancers. So she was standing next to me for my offering. This hasn't happened any year since. But so she was standing next to me as I got pierced. And so I'm in like full power, I'm like in this. And I like do the thing, I'm like, oh God, hey, run and jump and pull up. All this blood flies out, and she's wearing a white ceremonial robe. Blood splatters all over her. And I just hear her I hear her splatter, and she's like, nice. And I'm like, what? she like loved the like energy of it. She was all about it. And I looked over at her, and it was just that moment. I was like, oh, this is a special woman. She
sounds like such a trooper. She's been...
Yeah. She did her first Vision Quest this year.
And she's been with you for this entire ride,
yeah.
right?
Yes. Well, she came in actually in the detransition after Bankies, after the first year of Sundance. We met after the second year of Sundance. And then she came for the third year. And then she was in Bali for the fourth year. And then she came for the fifth year.
So when she met you, she knew what you were about. She knew it was going to be an interesting ride.
Yeah.
And she was on board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the writing of the book over the last year and a half has been a big process where she's getting to see the interior of some of the time as Ava and get to meet a part of me that is less obvious, but it's all integrated, but opening up. And actually, it's been really fascinating, like using AI to recreate images of things that were not photographed. But I have photos of me as Ava, and I have photos of these events that happened. So I can like create almost like a documentary of an event that happened. And she's also looking at all the old photos of me from that time and hearing all the names of all the people. And it's been a big deepener for our relationship.
I bet.
For her to see that, yeah.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So that's a Sundance. It's a lot. And it's really what it did was it created a relationship to discipline, a relationship to gentleness, and also inside of that pain, inside of that masculine, that war energy, like a gentleness came, right? It's not I'm destroying these offerings, I'm giving them. And it's a very different, it's like I'm caring for myself by caring for this part of me.
Well, it's this uber masculine part that you had, I don't want to say denied, but walked away from temporarily.
Yes.
And so to go back, you didn't just detransition. You went dove hard into this thing that most men would never even consider.
Yes.
And that's, again, not Renaissance. That's warrior.
Yeah. King, warrior, magician, lover. I definitely went and got that warrior energy in. And it's, when I hang out in the Aubrey Marcus community a lot with those.
Are you friends with him? I was going to ask.
I don't know him personally, but I feel like we're gravitating towards each other. It could be a cool intro at some point.
I bet it'll happen.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
I think this story is a lot of juice there.
Yeah, I can't imagine he wouldn't be fascinated by all this.
Yeah, his producer reached out like 2 years ago, but I think I wasn't really ready. Jordan Peterson's people reached out. Like, it's just finding the right timing. I think
Jordan would be so excited to explore the detransition, right? He wants to talk about that because he's got his mission.
Exact.
Aubrey is just open to everything. He'd be so into this.
I think that there is
he speaks your language.
Yes. There is a point now where we're making sense of that transgender moment. It was about a decade where the whole kind of culture was really a big scapegoat, this whole thing. And now we're kind of coming back, but make it mean something. It wasn't just, we tried.
It has to have meant something.
And that's what I'm here to say. Like, I think that we now know that we can. And now it's a conversation of ought we? How might we? And that's we can change our biology. We can change our identity. We can alter our consciousness. Now, why, how, and ought? And that's like elders conversation. And when I was in the trans community, there were very few elders. But in the biomedical side of the trans community, the medical gatekeepers are not elders. They're workers inside of an agenda, which we already talked about.
Exactly.
So there really was an absence of elders in this that aren't in identity politics. I'm talking about real conscious individuals.
I understand. You seem to have an affection for the community. You speak highly of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of untapped genius. So it kind of forks in two ways. It goes to like fully social services dependent people that are just into it for the hedonism and have a sexual repression that they can express through the change. Have fun. Like if you want to have blue hair, blue hair. If you want to have 3 arms, have 3 arms. Like bodily autonomy, yes, go for it. Know the risks. Know that you don't become the opposite sex. You actually are somewhat medically castrated and have some kind of erotic sensitivity, but you're no longer fertile of either sex. So we can't actually change the sex of a animal. Like
so you don't believe that men can have...
Well, we can change the social category and we can change the secondary sex characteristics. But just to make it really literal, if I had wanted to become what's called unobservable or stealth, I would have not only had to have vocal feminization surgeries, they like sew up your vocal cords to make them a higher resonance, had to shave the forehead down to the embossment that happens from testosterone, remove 2 ribs from here, add an embossment to the hip bones, take some fat out of the hands.
Do people do all this?
People do all of this. And probably would have like more surgeries on my genitals to make them a little bit more accommodating if that's what I'd wanted. I never really liked penetrative sex. But just to know like how much medical procedures would be to get an approximation of stealth. And even then, your elbows, your knees, these joints can't be shrunk. Testosterone grows them. And that's just to get an approximation of what my body would have been had it been estrogen dominant from primary and secondary puberty. There are still a broad spectrum of characteristics inside the male and female sexes, and there are women with all kinds of broad shoulders and big rib cages, and that is true. But for my biology to really have an unobservable like stealth, especially in the sensitive communities like the yoga-waska communities, or the kundalinis and the ayahuasca communities, I would always have been clocked as trans. So I don't think I would have really fit in the deeper, sensitive women's circles unless I even had like a womb implanted. You know, at a certain point, it's just, I am not that. That's not my space. Like we can make a new space for these kind of transgender, medically evolved, medically enhanced people. That's kind of cool. It's kind of science fiction. If you think about being a multiplanetary species, yeah, spacers. Yeah. The spacers are the space-habiting humans that are like genetically altered, and
go have it, man. Go have a blast. Absolutely.
Like, I can see that. I can even see.
But you can't fit a square into a round peg, right?
I could not become a female, and why would I want to? So we need more Lenny Kravitz. We need more Prince. We need more of that, like integrated,
masculine that are comfortable with their feminine sexuality, and all of it. And they're still men, clearly.
Exact, and they're still male, and honoring the ancient technology that we're gifted. Like what I sense is that in my medical alterations of my body, I have definitely modified the guitar a little bit. So when I was set up as Ava, I like to say that I had this fancy electric guitar with all these whammy bars and distortion pedals and played some cool, funky music. Mm-hmm. But when it was out of tune, I realized I couldn't even tune it. So I got rid of the distortion pedal, I got rid of the whammy bar, and I learned how to tune the guitar. Right? That was beautiful. Letting go of the estrogen. That was
I get it.
Letting go of the breast implants. And then from tuning the guitar, my relationship started showing up. I was, before I went to Bali, I had an amazing girlfriend living with me. I had my company, I had the house, I had the TED Talk, and it was all these amazingly beautiful things. But I really got into it where I was going to go to the next level of intimacy and like what's long-term commitment look like. And I realized like, oh no, wait. She said, I always thought the father of my kids would have a penis. And I always said, I thought that I would be a father with a penis. How did I get here? So it was like, whose life did I create? So I think there's just a real come to the truth moment where the body is a relational instrument, and how we curate it, how we cultivate it, what we repress and what we express is the interface to others.
Right. So again, it's if we take the instrument analogy, it has to vibrate in accordance with others, as opposed.
Yeah, I can help a little bit with this.
Help me a little bit with this.
So one of the things we say at the Kaizen Dojo, which is a men's group I'm a part of in LA, it's been going since the 80s. 100 men circle up in person on a Sunday morning at 6 a.m. and we inspect each other. No processing, no self-help, none of that. It's just
What does it mean, inspect each other?
You said you do this. How's it going?
Got it.
Where are you stuck? Where you need help? Like it's more of a I'm my definition of success, and then inspect on how I'm doing on that. Don't process anything. So inside of that, there's don't be a distraction. So if I'm showing up, like we have a lot of men who are queer, we have some trans men in the group, but not everybody knows they're there. And they're not a distraction, right? Like they're not bringing the space to them.
They're not being right. They're not looking for attention.
Yeah.
Or I understand.
Or creating a dissonant note. Like if we're playing jazz over here and you come in with an electric, it's just going to funk it up a little bit. So
it's a jam band, and you all have to be in agreement and sort of in this.
Yes.
I understand.
So
tuned with each other, playing with each other.
Yes. And if you're a loud note, like if you're a harmonica, dope. But play that harmonica in the flow with us. Right. Don't take over the whole space. And now we're in your Bob Dylan song, and everybody else is just now you're a solo musician. I thought we were in a band. Like there's a way to be that powerful note. And that's a responsibility. So what I got was, I was never a trans person who was like, call me these pronouns or don't call me these pronouns. And that was a key differentiator between how I navigated the space and how others did. Because I think that language is in the authority of the speaker. And by not just like by law, I think metaphysically, critically, if I am not the source of my reality through my word and vibration, emitting the truth and generating sense and coherence, then I'm cut off from my divine instrument. Like I am my word.
No, that's why we work on unconscious communication.
Correct. So the tactic of linguistic activism to say, no, you must call me these pronouns or else you're doing violence to me, is actually the opposite. Forcing other people to change their language in relation to me is a violence on them.
That's so interesting.
And it disconnects me from the reality
now
of
you
the
sound like
relational
Jordan,
truth.
because that's his.
I know that's why we would nerd out about it. Yeah, and I
you would nerd out about it.
And it would be interesting because I've been canceled from all different directions, and I've been honored by all different directions. You know, like people on the left love me, people on the right love me, people on the left hate me, people on the right hate me. Like it's because I just speak my truth, and I don't think people fit in boxes, especially not me.
So you probably attract people who are comfortable with truth.
Yes.
It doesn't matter left or right. It's just comfortable with truth.
Engaging in the process of discovering and becoming
as
truth.
Aubrey would say, the capital T.
Yes, the logos.
Yes,
right?
the
We're
logos.
in that logos now. So I think language is a big piece of that. But there's also, if I'm going to surgically alter or I'm going to change, like, great, but rock it. Like there's one person who's awkward about their fashion, another person who's rocking it, you know? And you can tell when someone's just so comfortable, but they got that style, versus when someone's like trying a little too hard. And I think a lot of the trans community
it's hard because you're trying to figure out, again, you're trying to play with the band, right? You got to fit in. You got to find your groove.
Yes.
It takes people who are in their own genre. It takes everybody, you know. This takes it really takes listening, understanding, caring about others. What makes, you know, I mean, it's so much more than just walking into a room and trying to find your way. You've got to read people. You've got to read the room.
Yeah.
You've got to be a conductor.
Yeah. This is one of the things that I got by living as Ava that I use now was hypersensitivity to
as a female.
Things. Yeah.
Right.
And I think it actually started when I was younger. I'm sorry, my lips are a little dry. But
Here, babe, have some more.
Yeah. When I there you go. When I was born, I moved into a room with my brother, and he's very sensitive. He didn't like my breathing on the bottom bunk. So I learned how to breathe silently. And that right there was my on-ramp into yoga and meditation as a child, right? And I learned how to like feel his mind when he'd gone to sleep, right? And then throughout my whole social experience in adolescence and puberty and peer socialization during puberty is a key part of gendering in society. It happens in our bodies, not on profiles online. I have a whole rant about that. And disembodied people on profiles trying to download their profiles into their body. We can talk about that later. But I went through, and I was very socially adept because I became such a listener and I become quite embodied. As Ava, the hypersensitive gender identity explorers, I was the only one who could they felt got. So I would host big facilitations where there were a lot of trans people and a lot of non-trans people, and we'd work on policy stuff together. And there were sex workers and there were police officers. And
this is back to your political.
Yeah, and I would do the mediations to the Baltimore Mediation Center because I could like create this space of listening and hold the room where the people, I could feel when someone was out and their listening was out, and I could get them back in.
You're tuned from both sides.
Yeah, gentle touch. And it helped. Now that
it's an advantage.
Yeah. And now that I've gotten back into this body and I'm able to do that, it's like, who do I do that for? And I sense that skill applies really well inside of any team, especially when you have a lot of intelligent people. I'm working with a team right now with a guy who has 182 IQ. And then his other people on his team are also quite smart, but he's very sensitive. So tuning them all into each other and understanding like how the energy is moving such that it can stay coherent is, I think, where this skill has arrived now. I can do this for teams. I can do this for people. And I love facilitating. So it can happen where a company has an issue they want to work through. I can create those spaces and facilitate through it. And that's all trained through my experience in the trans community and the mediations involved in the trans community. And then in the spiritual and psychedelic communities with all these highly sensitive individuals, extrasensory perceptions, psychics, all these people, and helping them stay grounded and stay in relationship. I could be a tuning fork for that.
So do you work mostly with companies?
I have, yeah.
Would you say that's the majority of your clients right now?
I have. So, right now I'm doing consulting with a couple of individuals who have companies. And that's usually relationship driven. It's usually how it comes in. There's some highly sensitive, highly intelligent person who's taking on more leadership, and how do they actually show up as a leader for their team? There's something in that. But it's the same, neurodivergent, neuroexpansive. These are the kind of people that ultimately transition their gender.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Highly represented. 60% of trans people are neurodivergent in some way. And it might be worth mentioning, we didn't get into the spicy brain tech stuff as much. I'll check on energy. But there's a...
Could neurodivergent also be highly attuned?
Yes. Yeah. So what is
So there could be aspects of it that we haven't identified yet.
Yeah. So what is neurotypical, right? So, and this is also a function of, post-colonial empire building. So when you're looking at a culture, the highly sensitive ones typically have the first role after the reproductive pair. So you have... Let me know if I'm speaking German or not.
No, I like it though.
Okay, all right. So there's, you have a culture that's coming to be the place-based society. Then they have reproductive imperative to sustain. And once they have one birth for one death and they have a stable identity, then they start specializing. Usually a priest, or a doula or a mystic, some kind of other class that's not going to have babies, but they're going to have social value. These kind of, speciate even further, and you get usually some kind of gender expansive role is usually a shaman. Sometimes it's an arbiter. Like Indonesia, the bisu, there are these non-binary judges. You can look at a Zen monk in Buddhism. You can look at the mahu mahu in Hawaii. They're kind of like trans feminine, the purveyors of art and culture. There's so many examples. The two-spirit is not an accurate word. The First Nations don't use the word two-spirit. They have all different words, like the Hopi clown. They have different words to describe the non-binary or gender fluid member of society who's the jester in some sense, the wise truth teller. They always show up. Thailand is very interesting. They're the oldest monarchy on earth, never been colonized. So they have all their 16 genders. The Katoe were like the tantric healers. They're like sex masters, energetic masters. And they often would be like born male, but then create a female body and become a master of the female sexual arts with a male starting point. And they call them ladyboys now.
Oh, I know what the
right?
ladyboys are, yeah.
But just to go on Thailand for one more second, and then India with the hijra. But they have in Thailand, language is based on what you're expressing, not based on your biology. So if you see a masculine woman, they call them a Tom. Feminine woman, they call it a D, and they are in a relationship, that's called heterosexual in Thailand. And if you have a CrossFit couple that's really masculine dude and a really masculine chick who go to CrossFit every day, that's called homosexual in Thailand. It's very interesting, right?
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So because they don't.
So it's about the pairing
and the expression.
to create and then the expression.
Yeah, and it roughly translates to match or no match.
I understand.
Yeah. India has another where they had the hijra. The hijra were the doulas of death, birth, and marriages, and they were the key, like, powerful beings. Now, and this is the colonial piece, when colonization came over through corporate colonization, the East India Trading Company, they started installing a different educational system, but they had to devalue the main sources of power. So they devalued the hijra, made them witches, created a narrative that those are witches, untrustworthy, they'll steal from you, or they'll overcharge you for a reading or a blessing. So they devalued that source of cultural power and installed the industrial one. So I think a lot of our society is still recovering from that. Like, instead of the complex ecosystem of expression, we made it into just two. So yes, reproduction is important, and yes, like, heterosexual pairing is awesome, and we all have this divine polarity to us. And, like, I see no challenge to a diversity of family constellations. I think that it's important for children to have a safe container. And that container gets to have a feminine leadership, and a template of what feminine is, and a template of what masculine is, what the exterior social role of the family is, and then the domestic role of the family. And those do really well, and they come from two distinct people, but they don't have to.
They don't have to.
And they can. And children are smart sponges. So as long as there's safety and love, I think it works. And I'm actually very curious about what might happen when we have more complex family structures. Because the way things are looking, I think we're going to be more interdependent, and I think couples are going to live together more often. We're going to see houses of like 3 or 4 couples, and they're all sharing parenting.
Community again.
Exactly.
Yeah, we need to get a little bit more back to community anyway. We were talking about that earlier.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to share? You're just so fascinating.
I mean, I could listen to you all day. So.
Let's touch on what you were saying, the internet downloads. Let's touch on that.
Okay, digital. This is actually a key piece to, I think, diagnostically what's happening, and I think that trans was the tip of the iceberg. So we have increased distribution of information. The new roads are the web, right? Amazon builds roads. That's AWS that powers the internet, right? So we all are encountering, if you tune in your feed, you can get the most esoteric integrative feed on Instagram, TikTok ever. But if you're not tuned in, you get a different one. And you're in a forming mind that's going through puberty. And you're socializing, you're getting external validation for the first time. You're making sense of how you show up. You're getting that relational feedback. All of our species history, that happens with all of this instrument to that instrument. And I make peer groups and social groups based on it. Now we make a profile. And that profile can be socially validated with language, not embodied experience. So that, I think, is what happened. We basically had a lot of folks, young kids, really smart, seeking belonging, finding it online, and then creating a profile and a way of being digitally. And then now, suddenly, they are off the internet and off the gaming, and they're off their profile, and they're in the real world, and it's incongruent. And they're distressed, and they want to make that fixed. And we have a medicine for that. And we have hormones for that. And we have surgeries for that.
Why would that community make them feel more included versus any other community?
Yeah. So I think it's just
Are these outsiders? Are these people who haven't found their tribe yet?
I don't think it's relegated to that. I sense that it's just people who aren't finding safety in expressing and discovering. So there's much more safety in the anonymity of online. But more than that, it's more stimulating. So, like, content in a social media feed is more stimulating. So it's almost more rewarding to anchor my identity in that, put more time in that. So they spend more time as a consumer through their profile just because of the stimulation. So then they come offline, it's just boring in comparison.
Faster. That's
Yeah.
why teachers don't. That's why
Yeah.
teachers are ineffective.
Yes.
It's really hard. They're moving too slow for the speed of the world right now.
Yes. So what is coming, I think is already here, and this shows up with trans people, but like also with nicotine.
Go for it.
Also with bodybuilders, with women influencers on Instagram. This is where they want to alter the body. And if it's plastic surgery, if it's steroids, if it's nootropics for someone who's intellectually is a source of their values or intellectual merit. And there's a thing called automorphic addiction disorder. So the body has a developmental reward cascade for achieving healthy development. Like my body rewards me for growing the beard and rewards me for maturing into a male adult. If I skip a step and like have a shortcut, it rewards me a lot for that shortcut.
Oh, so what would a reward look like?
So like do more of that.
And you get more attention?
Have more excitement. It's like more energy. So it's like do more of that. So instead of going through going to the gym for 3 months to get muscles, I got muscles in 1 month because if someone used steroids. Then they're like, whoa, more steroids, more reward, more strength, more social validation. Instead of having
I see. It's a positivity loop.
It's an accelerated loop. So if someone is then having this artificial developmental pathway of transitioning, and then they add in the plastic surgery and the hormones, then they get this acceleration because their body's like, oh, we did it. Let's keep doing that. And it creates this snowballing effect of momentum. And that's where it gets really dangerous. So this is where people get an automorphic addiction disorder. And then inside of that, there is it used to be called autogynephilia and autophallophilia. It's the erotic target fixation error there's a mate seeking that I'm aroused by, but instead of the fear and risk of being in a relationship with a complex human, I would rather become the mate.
I understand.
So I want to become my wife instead of meet my wife and have to deal with a complex human. That's autogynephilia.
I often joke that I've become the man I wanted to marry.
Right.
I get it.
Yes. And then taking it literally would become a transitioning.
Exactly.
That had full explanatory power in the 80s, and there's a reason as to why that was down-regulated as explanatory for gender transition, mostly to do with like more access points to like activism and things, but it was a different framework of third wave feminism that led to this experience of postmodern relativity or postmodern
this third wave of feminism.
Yeah, it kind of disconnected us.
It's so anti-feminist. Yeah. It's really hurt so many of new generations. It's dangerous.
It took us away from truth.
It took us away from truth.
So truth is not relative. I think truth is objective. And inside of that, truth is a process. And I'm grateful that you've been listening so much to all my ranting.
I love it. I love it.
But this is the
harder
process.
to contribute in this conversation because this is an experience that I haven't gone through. So questions are better than I don't have the answers.
But you've done a great job listening. I feel you're listening. I feel your presence, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and we connected a little bit on the Kundalini side too, and I want to say that there was a lot of ego dissolution when I would do that, when I would do those kriyas, especially regularly, that it allowed my ego to actually be let go and allow my body to do its thing. And I remember distinctly when I was practicing Kundalini and living as Ava, I had the most stable mental health during that period. I was so clear. That's when I founded not one company, but 2. And I built all of these things. And I do think that the Kundalini was keeping my cerebral spinal fluid flowing.
That's how it keeps me sane.
Keeping me grounded. It
keeps me off the SRIs.
Yes. So that's ancient technology. So whatever we do to our brains in the future, if we do any kind of devices or wearables or whatever it is, or we have more synthetic biotech that makes us funky, keep the ancient practices in.
It's true because, again, it is a technology. So specific inputs and you get reliable output. And so
Yes.
you know what you're getting.
Yes. Yes.
What I love about it, it's not faith-based.
Exactly. It's literally
Practice.
like, it's practice.
It's practice.
Yeah. And it's a rhythmic intelligence. So as we get into higher powered interventions or customizations of our instrument, don't lose the rhythmic intelligence. You know, I think that's like, if my system isn't firing in coherence and I've got some crazy brain powered thing, it's going to be misfiring, right? I don't care what I change, as long as it's in the rhythmic intelligence of the body, which is a principle that I really stuck with me in Kundalini, is just keeping it all integrated.
You're speaking my language now. I could go on a rant for this, but
Yeah. Feels good.
so now how do people reach out to you? How do they connect with you?
Yeah, so I've got kodahpip.com. That's KODAHPIP. At Kodah_Pip on Instagram. And I've oscillated between keeping it personal and making it more professional, but I go for intimacy. It's there. It's my personal life.
You're such an open book.
It's all of it. So, you'll see my professional stuff on there too. And then Kyber Collective is where a lot of this, my work shows up. So Kyber Collective is the Kyber crystal is what powers a Jedi lightsaber, right? So KYBER KOLLECTIV.com. In my book, we're in the process of getting a publishing deal. So talking to different editors right now. It is a process, but stay tuned for that. It will be the title that we're pulling for is Tune Everything, Detransitioner, Designer, Dancer.
I love it. And so much more, by the way. The list is too long.
Yeah, thank you.
You're great. Thank you so much. Really spectacular, enticing, brilliant, and so well studied. It's we don't just talk about emotion. Like, you've got the evidence, you've got the facts, you've read the history.
Thank you, Taylor.
You know the epistemology.
Thank you. It's been a journey, and I hope that people can hear it.
To be continued.
Yeah.
Satnam.
Satnam.